gift of the givers. Project manager in the Western Cape, Ali Sablay, joins us now via video link to weigh in on the relief efforts following the storm that left dozens stranded. Ali, good afternoon. Thanks for your time with the SABC at this hour.
Thank you for having me.
Ali, at this point, perhaps you could provide us with an update on the current relief efforts underway.
Thank you. You know, those numbers of 162,000, that's much more. The Gift of the Givers teams was first focused on the Cape Metropole, when the major informal settlements in the Cape Metropole, Kaidija, Guguletu, Nyanga, etc., reached out to our teams. And at the end of day one, when we prepared for delivery of the humanitarian aid the next day, on day one already the numbers was 15,000. Calls started pouring in after that, when informal settlement after informal settlement reached out to our teams, pleading for our assistance as they have lost everything. With assessments on the ground, we could see the devastation. Of destruction, where people have lost absolutely everything. As you must remember, people in the informal settlements, families, when they get their salary at the end of the month, they work with a budget. They buy their month's food in place. So you can just imagine the trauma and the heartbreak for a mother when she witnesses the food floating in front of her. And as our teams were extending its operation in the Cape Metropole, areas from outside the Cape Metropole, namely the Drakensberg district, the area of Mbokwini and Dromedaris, the Cedarburg district, the area, as the Simmers said now, the area of Wuppertal is completely cut off. We managed to get into Wuppertal through 4x4s and other means, and we assisted close to 300 families with non-perishable food items and blankets, clean drinking water, etc. While we were busy assisting that community, the Breeder Valley District Municipality reached out to us, informing us they have to evacuate the Spooky Town informal settlement in Rawsonville, where the water level was coming over the structures. Those people were accommodated in the community hall. We managed to assist them with humanitarian needs in terms of warm clothing, blankets, etc. And by that time, the Hex Rivier has burst its banks, washing away all the routes linking the farming community to the city, and they were completely cut off. No electricity for 7 days. Our teams was there on Saturday, and with the assistance of the SAPS, the diver unit, the local district municipality, and of course local farmers, we managed to reach that community and deliver humanitarian aid. As I'm speaking to you, the phone does not stop ringing as informal settlements leaders, community leaders are trying to reach us, trying to get assistance to the communities, and the numbers are increasing by the hour.
Ali, thank you for painting that grim picture. You've also now spoken to the damage caused by the storm and really the needs on the ground, particularly now that CONCT has deemed the area a disaster zone. You've spoken to the challenges as well in reaching, those who have been affected by the storm and the needs at this point. Perhaps you could also speak to whom all has come on board to assist in the recovery and rescue operations, perhaps also just the relief efforts.
All credit to all the local disaster risk management teams, all the provincial, the local disaster risk management teams who has been on the ground with us since day one. They are working in difficult circumstances in trying to ensure that the communities are safe, that the evacuation of women and children and elderly, they are taken to a place to a care of safety. On Sunday morning, we received the most tragic news and something we've been dreading and something we were not been praying for. When we received that call from a councillor in the Ramaphosa informal settlement in Philippi, when he called us and informed our teams, a family, they could not bear the brunt of the excessive cold weather. They lit, as they said, a galley, a bucket of fire in their structure, and they fell off to sleep. With the excessive winds, the structure completely burnt out, 2 people burned to death, and the communities was also affected. There's many other local churches, small NGOs coming on board to assist the community, but with the extent of damage, there's going to be much more help needed. Not too long ago, we visited a structure when we were busy giving out humanitarian aid in terms of blankets and hot food. The community leader noticed that there's one elderly lady missing in the line. We were walking through the informal settlement, water coming over our water boots up to knee level, and we managed to come to the old lady's informal structure. We opened the structure. The 77-year-old granny was lying there. She's arthritis. She has arthritis. She could not move. She said she was just praying someone could hear her, because she was screaming all the time. to get out of the structure. It was saturated with water, bedding was wet, and that is just one of the few incidences that the people in the townships and the Cape Flats is experiencing. So this operation is not going to end here. Once the storms is done with mop-up operations, we will see the true extent of damages being done to people living in the informal settlements, in flood-lying areas and in wetlands.
Ali, thank you for painting that grim picture once again. You now alluded to the fact that you think the figure is actually much higher in terms of those who have been affected. And given the high number of distress calls that you also received hour per hour, I mean, is there enough relief and resources to assist those who actually in need? Given you're saying that much of what's going to be quantified will obviously happen after everything is settled as well.
Our suppliers could not meet our demand in the Western Cape. We had to pull in additional resources and stocks from our warehouses in other provinces, but still it was not enough, as the numbers were increasing not by the hundreds but by the thousands on a daily basis. And the only challenge really for us was, number one, when areas became inaccessible, it was difficult for us to get to reach these areas, as by the roads has washed away. It was impossible to use air support. It was too dangerous for the helicopters. It was too dangerous to use at the timing of the day, the boats, of the speed and of the way the water is coming down from the rivers. So that was one of the major challenges for us. And of course, we cannot be at all the places at the same time. But what we are doing is we are sending our teams. Once we take on an informal settlement, we ensure that we see to every part of that informal settlement before we move to another. In adjacent to that, we had to split our teams into 4. 2 teams focusing on the Cape Metropole and 2 teams focusing on the outside. And by that way, we managed to assist communities not only in the Cape Metropole but outside, especially those who are having difficult times, who are cut off from food to 5 to 7 days. So that's the only major challenges at the moment. It's the shortage of supplies in terms of getting these supplies running out. And number 2 is of challenges with roads becoming inaccessible.
So Ali, given what you've now stated on air, perhaps you could outline the call to action as the needs increase. Talk to us about what that call to action is on that front, and if we're going to look at long-term solutions going forward, addressing spatial planning, just re-strategizing as well. What needs to be prioritized?
Prioritizing is evacuation or getting temporary accommodation for most of the people in the informal settlements. If you look at the water, some of the ground is saturated. There was videos going around yesterday where the ground was caving in, of structures just falling in, drainage systems falling in, because the ground has come so saturated. It's impossible for community members to go back into that environment. They have to be evacuated. But in the meantime, once for the aftermath, there has to be a plan of action. Number 1, relocation. Number 2 is ensuring that in terms of the people's humanitarian needs, in terms of food parcels, other needs is taken care of, because these people have lost everything, and of course, they have to be a way where it encourages where wetlands and other forms of the lower riverbanks is closed off, so that people cannot rebuild it. Because year after year, we can see the damages with climate change it's having on these, especially the poor communities.